I'd like to call the meeting to order. And before we proceed, I would like to read something. We kindly request that all audience members in council chambers be seated throughout the meeting unless speaking at the podium. We also request that citizens in attendance remain in the audience seating area and refrain from approaching council members and staff at the dais. Roll call.
Mayor Wiggins.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Davies.
Here.
Councilmember Heckey.
Here.
Councilmember Podencourt. Here. Everyone is present. Thank you.
At this time, I would ask you to rise for the invocation as Pastor Mike Safford from the Tehachapi Vineyard leads us.
Mayor, City Manager, thank you. I want to say thank you as we pray tonight for your participation with the Love Tehachapi event on Saturday. It was so beautiful to be out as a community. A lot of people that really love this city. So thank you for the way you serve, the way that you give. Can we pray? Father, we come together tonight, Lord, and all those here are here out of an affection for the city of Tehachapi. We recognize, Lord, that in what we will discuss tonight, what we look to discern, what we talk about, we won't all necessarily agree, but we thank you, Lord, for the strong conviction in everybody in this room right now that says, I love my city, and I want it to be beautiful and reflect the values that I hold so dear. So Lord, in that spirit and in that heart, we pray for just a posture together of community, of civility, of mutuality, of the ability to look at each other and to find common ground in ways that promote the well-being, the welfare, the goodness, the beauty, the success of this city that you have placed us in. We recognize, Lord, that we steward what does not belong to us. And we do pray for the welfare and the advancement, Lord, of this beautiful city. Thank you for our civil servants. Thank you for our police, fire, emergency response, for all those that choose to serve the way that they do on this city council. We're thankful, Lord, for our leaders, and we ask you together for wisdom, for grace, Lord, and that you would give them your heart for this beautiful city that we all love so very much. We ask these things, Father, in your precious name. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing as Mr. Costello leads us in the flag salute.
Salute. Pledge.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, we will review the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion if no member of the council or audience wishes to comment or ask questions. If a comment or discussion is desired by anyone, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the city council concerning the item before action is taken. Are there any items on the consent agenda that anyone from the audience would like to have removed? Council?
Motion to approve consent as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show it was a 5-0 vote. Before we go to audience comments, we are going to honor members of the Tehachapi CERT teams. and I'm going to present them with certificates. And is Captain Brian Gaddis here? Wow. Apparently they didn't have your first name right.
No, he apologizes, he's not able to come. I'm Jeannie Taylor, I'm with Kern County Fire, I'm the CERT coordinator for Kern County Fire. Gaddis is my captain. He wasn't able to make it tonight due to other responsibilities.
Well, thank you. At this time, I would like all of the CERT members to come forward, and I'm going to present all of you with a certificate.
Need help?
If you want to, yeah. If I could get you all to kind of stand in a semicircle.
Right up here.
Yeah.
There you go.
Don't be shy.
And the council members don't fight on Monday, so it's okay. if I get- All right, I'm gonna call your names and give you a certificate. David Cox. And then we'll let the news.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We'll let the news, no, stay right
Back
there.
over here?
I want to embarrass you as much as possible.
Thanks.
Rob Dixon.
Right here.
Thank you. Leslie Fields. Thank you.
Sorry.
Okay. Oh. George Wolf. There you go. Sarah Rose. Thank you. William Fields. Thank you. Teresa, I don't even want to try this.
Guadalupe, she's not able to come
Okay, thank you. We'll keep that. And that is no way that I thought that's how. Sally Thorne. Thune. There you go. Thank you. Michael Coughlin. Did I pronounce that right?
Yep. Thank you.
David Shaw. Thank you, sir. John Nelson.
I'll take it for him. He's on his way. He's on his way.
Okay, thank you.
He's busy working.
And Jeannie Taylor. That's me. Thank you. Thank you.
There's John. There's John.
There's
Take care of him.
Hop up there, she's got your certificate.
My sponsor.
I would just like to thank you on behalf of the city. There's no way we can really thank you for the work that you do. You go through all kinds of training, you respond when you're needed, and that's more than any of us could ask. And I was going to allow you to say a few words.
Do I need to use the podium, or can I
It's
just...
okay, if you can project, you don't need the podium.
I just want to say how personally proud I am of all my colleagues and friends here. We represent not only the Tehachapi team, but also the Stallion Springs team, and we all come together when there is a need, whether that need is to train anybody who wants to know about preparedness, or come together and help our other CERT teams like we did for the team in Ridgecrest. It is something we all do on our own as volunteers, and I couldn't be any prouder. Thank you.
I really want to emphasize that they went above and beyond to go to Ridgecrest. I know that when we first felt the first little earthquake, we're like, man, when's the last time we felt that? You know, it was kind of a surprise. And I'm sure that no one was more surprised than the residents of Ridgecrest. And then we got hit with another big one, but these people didn't hesitate. They went right up there. So,
No, we arrived, most of us arrived at 1 in the morning
wow.
on Saturday.
So, thank you very much.
Mayor Wiggins, if I may. I spoke with Ron Strand, city manager of Ridgecrest, and he couldn't be happier with this group of people. So he couldn't be here tonight, obviously, but he sends his gratitude on behalf of the city of Ridgecrest, the community, Roseman, and so on and so forth. You guys rallied. You trained first, and you rallied, and you went to a place where you didn't know what you were going to find, but you went there to help. And you stayed many days, in fact, and you were part of the solution. So the city of Ridgecrest sends their thanks to each and every one of you. So thank you very much.
Don't move.
We like you said.
Squeeze in a little bit more?
Yeah, we did.
And then can I get you to take a picture?
Do we hold our little? Here, open your little.
Oh, open your deals.
Yeah, open your little certificates.
Can you squish it together just a little bit? There you go.
Sure.
Say shake.
Shake out.
I've got something happening.
Yeah.
Now we got it.
Okay. All right. Again, thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm gonna.
I know. I'll get you into it.
And then I'll get this straight.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Moving right along. Are there any public comments from the audience at this time?
My name is Sephora Schmidt, and I live in the city. On behalf of Smart Growth, Tehachapi Valleys, I am extending an invitation to the City Council and to everyone else in this room to our annual meeting. The meeting will be held at the Benz Building, 1401 Goodrich Drive in Tehachapi on November 2nd between the hours of 10 and 12 a.m. We will have two speakers. Kern County Supervisor Zach Scribner will update us on the county matters, and we will also have a city representative who will update us on city matters. We are adding a brief presentation by the Tehachapi County Water District about the proposed water agreement for Cummings Valley. We will have a question and answer period after the presentations. Please join us for this opportunity to learn more about what is happening in our area. All are invited. I have a few announcements with me. If anyone doesn't know where the Benz Building is, it shows a little map. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, good evening. April, Big Lake resident of Sand Canyon. So, on or about the 12th of October, there was a newspaper article, and I believe the article originated from the LA Times, but was put out on Facebook by CNBC. Phil Smith had discussed wind turbines being built in the area by Amazon Corporation. You look surprised.
Well, I didn't discuss, he asked some general questions.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So my question to the city of Tehachapi is, and maybe you can answer this, what area in the city would windmills be built? Within, not the unincorporated area. So I would have to guess it would have to be in the unincorporated area.
I'm not sure exactly where they're putting them, that's not not to my knowledge in the city limits.
So have they not had that discussion with the city of Tehachapi yet?
I don't believe so, no. They'd have to go to the county first.
Well, I mean, I kind of know how it works because we fought a big windmill project out in Sand Canyon. So, but the article sounded so
a matter of fact, as if it had been spoken about.
No.
And, you had spoken about, what wind turbines bring to the city and building them here. And I know when Hilo was gonna build in Sand Canyon, I know when Phil Wyman talked about putting windmills on the Tehachapi Mountains.
Right.
And then again, out by the Norpatine Sisters in Water Canyon, the Tehachapi wasn't, I guess they weren't supported would be, and I know the county got a little aggravated at that.
Yeah.
I also know that Laura Obion had said, we have done our fair share here. But you made that article sound as if we were warm and welcome with open arms to build whatever it was, 4 megawatts or more. Like, I do feel like we've done our fair share here.
His comments to me were, what impact has it had at this point? And it has had an economic impact with the jobs and that. As far as where they're going to be placed, that's for discussion as far as I know. And when the Wyman project came up, I think we were all very unified that we did not want that in our view shed, those kind of things. So it was just some general questions, how it's impacted us at this point. So would stand by if where they're going to put them, I don't know.
Well,
And those discussions have not.
I get that the industry or the people that live here, the employees of these companies, and some live here, many don't. And I guess my fear is that Tehachapi, the city of Tehachapi might get warm and fuzzy about these windmill projects. And I do feel like we have done our fair share. There's a Dark Skies Act here that is not being supported. And that's not by you guys, that's by the
I'm sorry,
county.
but you're out of time now.
Okay, so that's my point when you talk to the newspaper, like, it sounded pretty warm and fuzzy, and it's worrisome.
Sure, with reservations, okay? But his questions were the impact on the economy, and they were general answers. So as far as where they're going to be putting something,
Have they discussed it with you yet?
no.
Okay.
That's why I was surprised at a specific project placement. So that has not come to for the council or and staff. I don't know. Not
Okay,
for-
thank you.
And not to me personally either. Okay, thank you.
I would note, just in general, that because I've had experience with them, when you talk to a journalist who's not from Kern County, maybe from London, as far as Mojave Airport's concerned, they don't exactly get everything that we talk about and that we think. So keep that in mind. All right, next.
Hi, hello. My name is Natasha McTire. I was actually born and raised in Tehachapi. I live in Yucca Valley, and I drove here tonight for this meeting. It's my first time ever. I wanted to bring up the situation with crosswalks and school zones. My stepson was hit in the crosswalk last Monday. And it was the crosswalk at Valley and Snyder. It had been said by the vice principal that day that the crossing guard had, prior to my stepson being hit, had almost been hit 3 times. Now, when you're driving down Valley Boulevard, there is a stop sign, and then an intersection, and then the crosswalk, which is yellow, which is a school zone crosswalk. The school zone sign is not until about a quarter mile after. Now, I'm wondering if there's a way we can get a police officer just there to give citations, to maybe make people think, stop, there's little kids, it's school hours. And, I looked online for crossing guard signs that have LED lights. They're $200. They're bright. And then possibly, signage prior to the stop sign stating that, hey, you're in a school zone, when you guys are flashing, you need to be aware of little humans walking around. So I came tonight to ask to see if there's something that we could do so that I could advocate for my stepson. It could have been a lot worse. He is okay, he's fine, but the fact that he got hit on his way to school is really bothersome. So, like I said, this is my first city council meeting, so I'm not too sure how to go about all of that. So I wanted to bring it in front of you guys and ask if there's something that...
We can certainly refer that to staff.
Okay.
And when I say that, I'm not trying to pass the buck, but it's the school district, city of Tehachapi, and county employed crossing guards. So the whole, it's a whole mishmash of things. There's no excuse that your stepson was hit, but we will have to get with the school district and some of these other things and, you know, try and work something out. So thank you very much. Okay.
I thought there was a crossing guard at that location
There is.
typically.
There is a crossing guard. He had, like I said, he had stated prior to my stepson getting hit that morning that he'd almost been hit 3 times already. And it was said also that the crossing guard, the lady that hit my stepson, tried to squeeze between him and my stepson. And the crossing guard was in the crosswalk when she went. So,
Wow.
Yeah, if you could provide your contact information to the clerk, my department will follow up with you on the issue. So we meet regularly as engineering, public works, and police to discuss traffic-related concerns. So I've heard your concern. If you can get us contact information, I keep a log of all that. We may not meet next week, but we meet every couple of months or so and deal with whatever issues we've been brought with, and we'll respond to you. Fair enough?
yeah, it's just one of those flashing lights is, I looked it up and it was $1,000.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
even
well-
just something to get parents and non-parents to pay attention in the morning and in the afternoon.
You got a lot of high school kids there too, so yeah, give us your contact information. If you can give that to the clerk, then we'll get back to you.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mayor, council, I know we got a lot of street projects coming up. A lot of them are earmarked, some of them are grants. My question for the council is, what about the federal gas tax and the state tax? How are we receiving those funds and how much are those funds? Nothing.
No,
Wow.
no.
Okay, how
Because
much-
I don't come up with an instant answer does not mean nothing. Just a moment.
Hang on, yeah.
I think it does come from your
And
hand.
also Senate Bill 1, that's been a huge tax.
Do you want to,
I think we need to know how those funds come in, how they're allocated. Sure. You know, what's going on with those funds?
we've repeatedly brought SB 1 or Senate Bill 1 funding allocation requests to this council for public transparent actions in the last 2 years. In fact, I think we recently brought that report just a handful of council meetings ago. So the state requires a twice annual public notification, identification of potential projects, as well as an identification report of how the money is spent. Those, we've been bringing those to council, and council has been responding to those. As far as the other construction projects that we bring, we and I typically bring those projects to council, as I did last meeting. I gave a thorough presentation on where the money comes from and how we're intending to spend it. So I believe we are doing quite a bit of public reporting on those issues.
And it's not a hard
Okay, as a regular attendee of these
Excuse me.
meetings, I don't recall anything coming out.
We have brought several over the last several months, several of these reports, so we can share that with you if you like, after we can get it to you. But there are several financial reports and project reports. And the gas tax, SB 1 money, very controversial, as we all know. The amount of money that comes to the city of Tehachapi and every agency is dependent on how much gas we buy as consumers. So that budget floats. We have to submit a plan to the state, which we've done it already a couple times, and we have to let them know what we plan on spending the money on, and then we bid those projects, and then we receive the money at a later date.
But the basic question, every penny's accounted for and is presented at the city council per project, not necessarily, and an overall annual report as well on those funds.
Okay, I understand. I'm not questioning the spending of those funds. I'm just wanting information on when they come to the city And are they earmarked automatically? And you answered a little bit that we have to apply for different things. And are these matching funds that are used, or are these funds set aside as federal, state, SB1 monies?
Jay, why don't you go?
It's a mix. We receive funding from, at the moment, I probably have 6 or 7 different funding sources for different types of projects. Some of them require matching funds, some of them do not. And again, when I bring projects to the council, either for authorization to go after the grant or at subsequent stages as we're spending the money and I need authorization. In fact, one of them is on the agenda tonight, the program supplement agreement. When appropriate, I identify how much money it is, how much money in match, if any, is required. And then not to mention, all of our capital projects are by project budgeted annually and semi-annually. In our large budget presentations, we have capital accounting in which every individual project, where the money comes from, how much matching money is necessary, where that matching money is coming from, are all part of the presentations that we do when we do budget, as well as we do project-specific presentations.
Okay, it's a lot of money, I want to know how much is coming in, and I just don't see it.
Well, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And I do read the minutes, I read the online, because that's the only place I can get it, is our monthlies, and I've never seen one that says federal tax dollars payable to the city of Tehachapi, X amount of dollars.
It's state, not federal.
Yeah.
Well, we get state and federal funds.
We do, but SB1 is state.
Okay, I'm talking 3 funds here.
And we would like to invite you to make an appointment after the meeting and meet with Jay or Hannah, and they could go over some of these things with you in a more intimate setting, and you could have your own report.
I would like that.
Okay.
Nothing else? Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to add that we are at the mercy of Sacramento, and as our current COG representative can tell you, the governor within the last week has already tried to take some of that, all that money away for other things. So it's a constant battle, and the report changes on a daily basis because of that. So any other comments from the audience? If not, we'll go on to item number 5, disbursements and bills for RSI Petroleum for October 1st, 2019 through October 14th, 2019.
Madam Mayor, I need to recuse myself because I'm an employee of RSI Petroleum.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience regarding this item? Council?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the disbursements for RSI Petroleum. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed for reasons that I've previously stated at prior city council meetings.
Let the record reflect it was a 3-1 vote. Airport manager report. What did I not?
On to number 7.
I'm sorry.
Adjourn.
Yeah, we're done. It's little, I'm trying to make it bigger. Now, you said it's not number 6?
6 is consent. Yeah.
Oh, I don't have a,
Ashley's butters?
yeah, I do, but I had made it bigger so I couldn't see it.
We're at item number 7.
Number 7. Go ahead.
Honorable Mayor and council members, the first item I have for you tonight is an introduction of an ordinance amending ordinance number 1606 736, and Tehachapi Municipal Code Section 1504-160. So this is an update to our building codes. As everyone is aware, the state of California updates the California Building Code every 3 years. Without fail, every 3 years they update the building code, and it is our requirement to adopt the California Building Code in sequence with the state's adoption of these codes, so that structures that are constructed within the city limits are compliant with California codes, primarily to protect both the public and also the property owners. It's going to be awful hard to get insurance on a house that doesn't meet current code. That's what we're introducing tonight. It's pretty straightforward. These codes are constantly changing to reflect the industry's understanding and best construction practices and the interests, quite frankly, of Sacramento at any given time. This year's code changes, for instance, and I didn't produce any kind of the exhaustive list of ways in which the code changes is far more than you guys are interested in hearing from me tonight. But a couple of the large items, the state is yet again making significant changes to the code for the sake of energy conservation. The biggest single item that probably many people have heard of is the state will now be requiring mandatory solar on single-family houses, for new single-family houses that are applied for. That's not necessarily something that the City of Tehachapi Building Department agrees with as a policy, but again, it's a state code, and it's required that we follow state code. Other items include energy efficiency requirements that affect single-family home construction. It appears that there aren't significant changes that affect commercial or non-residential structures, not worthy of me mentioning as in this overview, but the biggest changes are energy related to residential homes. So with that, staff recommends that the City Council introduce by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Tehachapi adopting by reference the 2019 edition of the California Building Standards Code, known as the California Code of Regulations, 2019 California Residential Code, 2019 California Building Code, 2019 California Green Building Standards Code, 2019 California Mechanical Code, 2019 California Housing Code, 2019 California Plumbing Code, 2019 California Electrical Code, seismic strengthening provisions for unreinforced masonry bearing wall buildings, grading code, 2019 California Building Code, dangerous buildings code, building relocation, mobile home and accessory structures, floodplain management code, and the 2019 California Energy Code, 2019 California Administrative Code, 2019 California Reference Standards Code, and amending Section 1 of Ordinance Number 1606-736 of the City of Tehachapi and Tehachapi Municipal Code Section 1504-160. And as a final comment, if you all will recall, just as a preview, the County of Kern also typically makes minor amendments to these codes. These are a minimum set of code requirements from the state. Each jurisdiction is legally allowed to require greater than the minimum code. We never recommend, but because Kern County provides fire for prevention for us, we typically will adopt what Kern County Fire adopts, so that as they're operating within city limits, they're operating with the same rule book as they use anywhere else in the County of Kern. So normally that's on a 1 to 2 month lag from the adoption of the code cycle update. So just letting you know that that will be coming in probably a month or two. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Any questions from the audience concerning this first reading?
Good evening, Nicole Hibblin, Open Holes. Jake, does that mean, like, for the example of like Sage Ranch or any of the other developments, are they grandfathered in, or because they actually haven't built yet, they're going to have to follow this new set?
So through the mayor, the December 31st is the deadline, meaning most agencies require that if you have a permit if you have a permit in hand to construct or make an improvement by December 31st of this year, you are under the old code.
Okay.
If you do not have, typically agencies are friendly that if you simply apply with a real finished application package by that date, then they will run you through the permitting process and issue you a permit under the old code. If it's January 1st or later, you're under the new code. There are a few little nuances to that, and I probably shouldn't get into them. So if you have a question, feel free to come ask me, but the dividing line is the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Council? All right, I'll entertain a motion for the first reading of this ordinance as presented by staff.
Go ahead. Motion to introduce.
Motion to introduce item 7 on the agenda.
Have a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Let the record show it was a 5-0 vote. Number 8.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor, council members. The second item I have is fairly perfunctory for us, but we do usually discuss in program supplement agreement and resolution. So as you're aware, the city has been allocated funding and has received an authorization to proceed from Caltrans for the active transportation program to construct new curb gutter and sidewalk, among other improvements on Snyder Avenue between Tehachapi Boulevard and Valley Boulevard. And according to our master agreement between the city and Caltrans, whenever we're obligated a new amount of money, or typically when we are, we're required to approve a program supplement agreement on a project-by-project basis in order to receive our funds. So this is a program supplement agreement for the preliminary engineering phase of this project. This is the limits of the project. If you don't mind going back a few pages, though, based upon some of the comments we received here during public comment, if you go back up a couple of pages, the first page of the actual program supplement agreement, so keep going up, right there, and scroll down just a little bit. This is a program supplement agreement, so a supplementary agreement to our master agreement, and it identifies that we're to receive $190,000 of SB1 funding from the state of California with no matching requirement. So this is an example of the type of presentation that we make that identifies where we're receiving the funds and for what the funds will be used for and whether a match is required. So with that as my presentation, you must enter into this program supplement agreement in order to receive the reimbursement of the project. The project is expected to be constructed with no matching requirement. These are SB1 funds from the state of California. Therefore, my recommendation is that you adopt resolution authorizing the mayor to sign and execute program supplement agreement number T09 to administrating agency state master agreement number 004155, project number ATP SB1 L-5184-035. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions.
Any questions from the audience? Council?
On the map, the ones in red, the east side of Snyder, is that going to be just rehabilitated? On the east side, yeah, on the bottom there.
Yeah,
because there's curb gutter there.
Correct. No, we're going to bulb out the curb and gutter there in order to address the change in the abrupt change in width of the road. That's what that red indicated. I have to go remember what the legend said, but we're going to try to bulb it out before the intersection so that the cars are moving over and shifting for that constriction.
Realignment.
Yeah, realignment.
Okay. I think it's a really good project. There's certain areas around town that from eons ago never got curb and gutter. Anytime new development occurs in the city in present day, a developer comes in, they are required to connect curb, gutter, road, utilities, all those facilities, and then deed it to the city for maintenance. In past years, there might have been a tract that it wasn't required, like in 1945 or 50 or whatever a tract was built. And there's certain gaps around town, you'll see just no curb and gutter. So this is a good project that closes the gap on those. So I think it's a good project, and it's 100% without a match. So I would make a motion to approve unless there's anything else.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded to approve the program supplement agreement number T09 All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show it was a 5-0 vote. State Department of Parks and Recreation.
Honorable Mayor and council members, the third item I have for you tonight is what's known as the per capita grant program. So this is under the auspices of Proposition 68, which was Senate Bill number 5 and approved by the voters on June 5th, 2018. $185 million at the state level from Proposition 68 is being made available under the general per capita program for local park rehabilitation, creation, and improvement grants to local governments on a per capita basis. Now, you guys will all remember your Latin, per capita means per person, and so the basis of the grant is going to be based upon the population served by your agency. So we're not going to be a big grant applicant compared to those in the state, but the funds are allocated based, as I said, on population, and the expected minimum allocation for cities is $200,000. Anyway, this one's a little odd. This is the kind of stuff we're seeing out of Sacramento these days. The Natural Resources Agency, Department of Parks and Recreation, Office of Grants and Local Services, OGLS, was delegated the authority to execute this grant program, and they don't yet know how much money each agency is expected to receive. So if we don't know how much money we're supposed to get, it's pretty hard to pick the project or projects that we expect to spend the money on. So what they've asked for is that all interested agencies in receiving the funds would pass a resolution at the council level to say, to put your hand up basically and say, I want funds that are made available to us. And then based on how many agencies say yes, they will then look at the populations and do the math and call us back up and go, okay, your allocation is going to be X. At which time they're going to ask us to identify the project we want to spend money on, come back to you guys as council, have you yet again raise your hand and go, yes, I want the money and I want to spend it on this. And then the process will go from there. And no, I don't know the timeline necessarily on when that check would arrive and that, but that's the concept behind the program at this point. That second application package is expected to be required by January 31st of 2020. So hopefully this will all be happening in the next few months. We do believe that we qualify as a disadvantaged community, which will mean that these funds would come to us at no match requirement. So it's not enough money to build a new park, it's not even close, but it is enough money for us to make an improvement in one of our parks. And just a reminder to you all as the council and to the public in general, there is a division of park ownership within the city limits. Some of the parks are owned by the Parks District. Those are not parks we're discussing here. We're talking about applying these funds to parks owned by the city. So, you know, Warrior Park, Pioneer Park, Railroad Park, those are probably, am I missing any? The little one, Brave Park across the street, those are the ones that we own, a handful of parks. Anyway, we've already been brainstorming ideas and would certainly welcome the council's ideas too, and we'll bring that back to you at the right time. So tonight, and I also want to make sure everybody that knows here at the council and the audience, our putting our hand up takes nothing, no money out of the Parks District's pocket up here or any other agency. They have their own process through this grant application to put their hand up for funds, so there's no, there could be double benefit to the parks that lie within the city or lie within this area. So with that, I recommend we put our hand up and adopt a resolution approving the filing of application for Department of Parks and Recreation Office of Grants and Local Services per capita grant funds. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the audience concerning this? Yes, sir.
George Sandy, long-time resident. I hope that on this small project that we can put an additional project on the wish list, and that would be for the aviator park on the airport, possibly a very essential item that we need out there as a rescue.
Yes.
So I hope that's on the list, and thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the audience? Council? I'll entertain
Motion
a
on
motion.
staff's recommendation.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to approve that we adopt a resolution to apply to this. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show it was a 5-0 vote. Public Works Director reports.
Madam Mayor, I need to recuse myself because this I believe I do, am I correct?
You should.
Yes, so I'll recuse myself because it has to do with the fueling options for the city, and I'm an employee of RSI Petroleum.
Thank you.
Is that chair in the hallway?
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. I'd like to provide a little bit of background regarding our purchasing policy for the city because it is applicable to this item. So in 2017, the City Council approved and adopted an ordinance outlining the procurement and purchasing policies for the city. The intent of that policy was to streamline and improve efficiencies and establish procedures for how we purchase supplies and equipment at the lowest cost, commensurate with the quality and the need, and provide financial oversight and control for those purchases. As part of this ordinance, purchasing for the city was decentralized, which means that most of the departments are responsible for purchasing items within their area of responsibility. The exception for that are things that are kind of common to all departments. That would be more centralized. But, at the September 16th City Council meeting, there was a discussion regarding RSI Petroleum purchases, and there was direction from Mayor Pro Tem Smith regarding staff looking into the way that we're purchasing our fuel. So the Public Works Department manages all of our fuel purchases and the fuel storage and dispensing system that the city operates. Fuel is delivered by truck with scheduled deliveries 3 days per week, and then in addition we get deliveries as needed depending on our fuel use. So sometimes we'll use a lot of fuel in a week and we just call up and they deliver as needed. And they being RSI has offered to fuel or to supply fuel up to 7 days per week if we need it. Due to our small tanks, the city does require frequent deliveries, and obviously we want to maintain those tanks as full as possible in case of an emergency, natural disaster, whatnot, that we would need that fuel and not be able to get deliveries. So we try and keep that as full as possible, which means we need small and frequent deliveries of fuel. In addition to that, our geographic location limits the number of suppliers that are willing to supply to us. So after the September 16th meeting, the Public Works Department conducted a search for additional fuel suppliers. Basically, we reached out to 5 bulk fuel suppliers and to determine the pricing and their willingness to deliver a minimum of 3 days per week. None of those 5 suppliers were willing to meet our 3 days per week requirement, and certainly none of them were willing to meet the 7 days per week, so that goes without saying. We did, only one of the vendors was willing to deliver 2 days per week, which did not meet our minimum requirements. So as a result, basically we've determined that there are no other fuel vendors that are available to deliver on the frequency that we need. That combined with the fact that we are allowed to purchase items on a sole source purchase based on the ordinance that was approved by this council. So at this point, RSI is the only provider able to provide such commodity in this area at the frequency required by the city. These purchases are exempt from competitive bidding based on the ordinance that was approved. So this is for information, and I'll leave it with the council to decide where we go from here.
Any comments or questions from the audience?
Jim Jacobs City. I was the one that brought this to the table, and I appreciate the fact that you did look into it. But what I don't see is a bid process. Seems like you sent out a few letters come back. Is that how we really bid for services? I want to see a real bid process. This is what we would like. Can you supply this and this? Instead of asking them a series of questions and giving them the option to say yes or no. I think this is a bad way to spend our money, and I'm not going to let go of this. We need to save every penny we can and get a legitimate bid from a contractor or contractors willing. Maybe we need to supply 2 contractors instead of 1. Maybe we get a better deal at that. I just don't think we should just let this go based on a summary of information. I want concrete information on the gallons required, the necessary need to have fuel 3 days a week, and then jump it to 7 days a week. That seems like it's spaghetti financing to me. We're spending tax dollars. Those tax dollars should be allocated for, and I think there are better ways to spend that money on fuel. So I would like to see the city staff go a step further and actually have a bid process to bring these funds into the city and not just rely on one service who happens to live here in the state or in the city. Anything else?
Thank you.
Yeah, one more.
Hi, I'm Kim Nixon, a resident and business owner up here, and I appreciate the work that Public Works did on obtaining this information. I do understand that under the ordinance, there doesn't have to be a bid process. And I know that for our businesses, we are one of the biggest purchasers of fuel on the airport. And it's important for us to be able to have the fuel there when we need it to run engines for our customers, either in the United States or out of the country. So I think with RSI Petroleum being willing to meet the needs as the city has them, and they are providing a competitive price. Fuel is expensive, but the users of that fuel are the ones that are paying for it. It may sit in the tank, but when we go and purchase fuel, we're paying for it. When the pilots purchase fuel, they're paying for it. The citizens aren't paying for that fuel to sit there. So I think that y'all have met the requirement and provided a lot of information. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. Comments from the council?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I actually believe that the citizens are paying for the fuel. Very clearly, the taxpayers, unlike the airport where it's specific to a customer. And I understand what you were saying, Ms. Nixon, but I believe that it's, in the case of Public Works and the consumption of fuel within the city limits for city services, the taxpayers are directly paying for that. The question that I would have for our Public Works Department is, anytime we have to have repetitive product, and it doesn't matter what that is, when you have to run a truck up the hill to bring anything to us, more than one time a week or a month or whatever, you pay an additional fee for that truck to come up the hill. I think we should take this a step further. We should really look at, and this discussion's been had for many years. I remember when Dennis Wallstrom was the Public Works Director, and the discussion came up when we all used to sit and meet at the BK Theater over here. why don't we better size our tank so we can take advantage of a dip in the price? And you know, I appreciate we have what we have and we own what we have. At the same time, if we can do an amortization schedule on the cost of a new tank and justify that expenditure, we may actually reap benefit on a lower delivered fuel price because we only may need to get the guys up the hill one time per week. Or if it's a big enough tank, you know, once every 2 weeks. I think that's what we really need to look at. I do agree with what Mr. Jacobs said. I think that, you know, if we're really going to go through the effort of satisfying the perception of a bid process, let's get a questionnaire out there in hard copy to each of the 5 or 6 or whatever it was, Mr. Marsh, fuel suppliers in our area, and actually have that bid process go through and understand specifically. If we get back 4 out of those 5 that say no bid, then we know where we stand. But I do have to agree that we need to go through that. I do fully understand that costs that come into this city in the form of fuel ultimately they get forced back on the taxpayers. And every day that goes by, our taxes go up. Something goes up. And at some point, we have to say, enough is enough as a group of citizens and work a little bit harder to try to minimize that exposure. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a information-only item, so we'll move on.
Oh, just a comment.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Well, it sounds like you got 4 bids, or however many you got. Others, you got bids that said we're not interested, basically. So,
Yeah.
you know, requirement. And I don't have a problem with some, at a future budget cycle, next year, a comparison for a bigger tank. But if it sits there, you're always getting fresh fuel if it's more delivery, so you have to have that discussion as well. So for right now, I think we're doing fine. I appreciate going out and soliciting others to bid on this, and they decided, no, we don't want to bid on it. So as far as the bid process goes, it was taking place. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
But I'm not opposed to looking at a bigger tank if it makes sense, if it
Well, and you know, Mr. Smith, we actually ran into that same exact problem at the airport. And when that tank was put in at the airport, unfortunately, it was not sized appropriately to take a full tanker load. So when we purchased aviation fuel, the city, we ultimately end up having to, thank you.
I'm sorry.
We ultimately end up having to pay a little bit of a surcharge because there is an extra fee associated with transportation because the term is called a partial load. And those partial loads, when you start adding up those numbers month after month after month, or delivery after delivery after delivery, the number gets substantial. And that is as a result of a improperly sized tank. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, City Attorney's report?
Madam Mayor, we had a...
Michael come in first.
Hold on just
Yeah.
a second.
Yes, sir? If it's regarding, is it regarding the fuel?
Yeah.
Can he sit here while he asks the question? He wants to ask a question about the fuel discussion.
It's up to you.
All right. Okay. It's okay, come on.
Turn the mic on. George Sandy again. My experience in observing fueling situations at various airports is if you stick with a Baker, you have the flexibility of that larger supplier to modify the loads and the prices, which very seldom do, but if you start shopping the independents, you eliminate the loyalty factor. And my experience has been when the fuel gets tight and there's a shortage crisis, I've seen a lot of airports all the way up and down the valley without a drop of gas because the independents are cut off by the majors, and the majors are taking care of theirs first. So I would say when you shop in independents like RSI or whatever it's called, you're at an added risk of a future supply in a crisis. And we've had them in the past. We need to have Mr. Davies leave.
Okay, if you're gonna, are you finished or are you gonna say more?
Oh.
Well, he can't be in here while we're talking, and you mentioned RSI, so he has to
This is
leave.
common knowledge in the fuel business.
Anyways.
So I just thought I'd add that because we used to have a big fuel supplier here, Chevron, and a good relationship, but some people thought the prices were a little high because they shopped the independents. And then they went into that purchasing syndrome, and I might warn that it can lead to shortages that you don't really enjoy.
Can I ask you a question? So you were saying that Chevron, or we were getting a better price with the independents, is that why we went, is that what you're saying?
I'm saying, well, I'm actually advocating sticking with a major because the independents aren't as strong in a crisis, and if we have independents, like my experience up the valley, some of us people that had businesses requiring critical amounts of fuel, we actually purchased fuel from the majors to an airport, Orange County in this case, and put the fuel up at Lone Pine and Independence just so we could keep operating our businesses. So if they had stuck with the majors, they probably would have had a supply. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. I have a follow-up question.
Is it concerning this?
Yes.
Okay, wait a minute, Jay.
Yeah, I'm not gonna change subject on you. Of the 4 bids, Jim Jacobs, City, of the bids we received, who are they?
Would you like me to answer that?
Well, I don't, huh?
I think it's a legitimate question, or I wouldn't ask.
All right, go ahead.
Well, it's not a legitimate question because as I explained, we contacted 5 vendors. All of them refused to give us a price because they could not meet our delivery requirements. We did exactly what you and Mr. Hecky are suggesting. Go out and find vendors. We could not find anybody that was willing to give us a price.
Did you look in Lancaster for any vendors?
Yes.
And the name of those companies?
I don't have the names in front of me, I'm sorry.
Really? Anybody else can help them out?
No.
You should have this information, sir.
We're not in a debate right now, sir.
I'm not debating, I'm questioning.
Well, you're now debating, so I would thank you for your comments, and if you want to
So
call...
no idea.
Excuse me. If you would like to call him tomorrow, maybe you could talk to him that way. But we're done with this discussion.
We should have open forum here, ma'am. We get shut down all the time, and we don't get follow-up, we don't get feedback. Oh, come see us, and then you play lovey-dovey with us. That's not what we want. We want answers to our questions, and they're not difficult questions. They're honest, sincere questions about dollars and cents. And I know you guys hold the purse, but come on.
There was a meeting where you were asking questions of Greg, and he invited you in for a supplemental meeting, and you said, sure, I'll come in. Did you ever meet with him?
That was on housing, that has nothing to do with this.
Did you ever come in on that?
No, I didn't.
Okay, just clarification.
Okay, I don't think clarification is needed on that.
I think Mr. Marsh would be happy to meet with you and get you some...
You speak for the director now?
I speak for everyone who's here tonight, and I would appreciate it. The discussion is over, and I need you to take your seat. Thank you.
Look out for November, folks. You won't be sitting there, guaranteed. Promise. Who asked? Say when my back's turned.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Just relax.
Sit down.
Item number 11, city attorney report.
Madam Mayor, Councilmember Hetke is selling one of his hangars. We have a right of first refusal. I'd like Councilmember Hetke to recuse himself and leave the room before we discuss this, because it looks like he has a conflict of interest under Section 1090, which has a criminal penalty associated with it.
This is, Mr. Schroeder, for clarification, this is the discussion about the...
Are you going to recuse yourself?
I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
This is a discussion under your agenda item talking about the scenario. It's not talking about the specifics.
Yes, it is.
Let me ask you a follow-on question.
Sure.
Could you give me you're an attorney.
Yes.
Could you please give me the definition of blackmail? Blackmail.
No, I can't.
So you, as an attorney, do not understand or cannot or refuse to give me the definition of blackmail.
I don't know the definition of blackmail.
Well, then you know what? That's fairly appalling.
Okay. Are you going to recuse yourself?
Why don't you delay this conversation until we get a response from the FPPC?
We can do that. Does that interfere with your sale, though? That's the problem.
Well, let me tell you what, folks. Mr. Schroeder.
Can't talk about this.
Well, then if you're going to talk about something that is contingent on the FPPC giving an opinion, then I suggest that you don't put yourself in a conflict by saying something in favor of or in denial of what they may come back and present to you. So in that particular case, I think you should pull that agenda item from this docket and you wait for the FPPC's ruling on it.
That would be my recommendation to the council. Sure.
Fine.
All right. You need a motion for that?
No, we've already, well, yeah, let's do that, because Mr. Hetke is suggesting it, so let's get everybody on the record.
I make a motion that we table this until we get a hearing.
The FPPC formal advice letter.
Yes.
Okay.
So it's out in the clear, and this business of whatever he said, never mind. But
Yeah, I said blackmail.
Yeah.
Yeah, just for clarification, I looked for the definition of blackmail.
And this does not come under that as far as I'm concerned, but my motion is that we table this until we get a ruling from FPPC.
Do I have a second?
I second. Thank you.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And I will abstain.
Okay, thank you. Let the record reflect that. City managers report. Nothing? All right. Council member reports, Mr. Davies?
I have nothing, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Smith?
At Kern Cog, we were talking about SB1 diversion of funds from Highway 99. It's become a very contentious issue. We may be getting I think we're going to get being asked for a letter of support in general from other cities in the county and to support our projects versus SB funding being pulled off and saved for other projects in the state. So just heads up that we'll probably be getting something to that effect.
If you'd like to authorize this evening, so we're talking about the Highway 99 improvements and the Highway 46 improvements, correct?
That's 46, yes.
Governor Newsom is recommended, or I don't know if he's done it or not, but he's close to doing it, pulling those funds and building a train in Northern California. So we certainly oppose that, and Kern Cog wants our support, and this council agrees with that. We can draft a letter and send it in opposition to Kern Cog and the governor's office.
You'll probably be receiving a draft or some kind of formal, what they would like, so that we're all cities in the county are on board. Because Highway 46 has been one of the highest priorities for Kern Cog and the county for a number of years. And it's almost, we're getting so close to being finished to draw that funding away at the last minute and divert it to either the Bay Area or LA. we're going to stand in opposition to that. We're going to stand with the other cities. So be on the lookout for something, a letter of support that we are demanding that our projects stand. Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Hedke?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to echo one of the early comments that we had from one of our members of our community pertaining the article that was on social media. And I know that, so anytime you say social media, we get a bunch of heckles and jeers and whatnot. Nevertheless, about the wind turbines. I read that article. I was contacted by several people regarding that article. I think that we need to go back. Mr. Smith, you may need to go back to that author of that article and have him, you need to put a request into him to have him clarify what your discussion was with him. Because, again, I echo what was said from the podium. It sounded as if, the way that was written, that there was already a decision that was made by Amazon, and there was concurrence. They didn't talk to the mayor, they talked to the mayor pro tem. And there were some peculiarities with that article, which it didn't sit very comfortable with a lot of people in our community, especially those who have fought numerous battles pertaining to wind turbines being put in areas that they were not comfortable with. We all know that, yes, they create jobs, and yes, they serve a purpose. At the same time, we do not want that stuff in our backyard. So I would request, and I don't know how to do it, Phil, but if we could get if you could go back to that author and just say, listen, you put something out there that sort of has quite a few people in our community who are sensitive to wind turbines being put in their backyard. You've got them concerned. And I read that several different times, and each time I read it, I came to the same conclusion, that the way that was presented, it was as if the city and you had condoned that. And I appreciate, you gotta be careful with the press. They will do what they want to do, but at the same time, I think we need to have some clarification on that.
Well, I was one of the first ones to stand up when Mr. Wyman wanted to put turbines in our view shed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, I agree, Phil.
So I don't need a lecture from anybody that I am going to all of a sudden be cozy or fuzzy with wind turbine companies, all right? What I do say, and what I said with this question, excuse me, am I interrupting you?
Yes, that's okay, go ahead.
I'll stand at the front at that point to defend our view shed, all right? At the same time, he asked me some questions of the benefits that we've received thus far, all right, from the wind industry. And that's a general thing, and if you want to make a big conspiracy that I'm in with them or something, do your thing. I have not had any discussions with any of them. They contacted me. I'm not sure they could get a hold of Susan today. I said, oh, I'll talk to somebody. But it was general knowledge. To my knowledge, there's nothing in the mix as far as coming to the county board, or certainly not to the city limits of any turbines in our area. I know there's a big Amazon project that has been announced, or it's in the works, so I don't know where it's going to go. It might be in the desert even. I don't know.
But the story as well, because I was quoting that, from the very outset, it was economic impact of wind turbine projects in the greater Tehachapi area.
Correct.
Very clear. It starts out with a quote from me, I believe, talking about economic impact as the economic development coordinator in the city of Tehachapi. So there was never a mention of a council vote or a council project. It was all about what does this industry do? And the headline was fairly misleading. I don't think a project of that size is going to transform any community. What they're building down in Mojave is about 4 times that size. And and our companies benefit from that as well. So it was on the outset from CNBC, delivered as what's the economic impact of the industry to the city, because this is where the shopping is done, the businesses are housed, etc. So that's where that came from.
I would like to add, a very wise attorney told me about 30 years ago, never get in an argument with anyone who buys ink by the barrel. And that's what we would be doing. If we went back, then they've got a reason to write another article and misquote us and make us look bad. So I think it's in the interest of the city to leave them alone.
Yeah, it's, I don't disagree with what Mr. Costello or Mr. Smith have said. However, when that article ties itself to Amazon, I mean, Amazon is, we all know it, folks, Amazon's a Goliath. Amazon can come into a community and they can force issues on that community with dollars. We see it happen all the time. And what I read and what the people that contacted me read raised concerns for them and it raised concerns for me. So as a council or as a municipality who has been singled out in an Amazon-related article, I think we need to be clear on what that really is. And that's just my position on that. You can either choose to take action or no action. You can buy the barrel or whatever you want to do. But when people associate Amazon with something that's going on in a small community, especially something controversial like wind turbines, we need to be in front of that. And we need to ensure our citizens that there is no discussion going on with Amazon. There has not been one, and we don't plan on allowing certain things to destroy the aesthetics that Tehachapi offers. That's crucial. And I don't have anything more to say about that, but I think we should.
Yeah, we're pretty much done with public comments now.
Well, I agree, but this came up and it's sort of not on the agenda, and I just have 2 items to add.
Well, you've already spoken, ma'am. We're down to the end, just taking our final comments from the council. Thank you.
Okay, but I do want to say...
Thank you.
I'm going to say this because this came up off... It's only 2 seconds.
This is council comment time. That's not...
You have to take your seat now.
I know, but you got it wrong. The article says specifically that Amazon named 3 projects. And
comments closed, please have a seat.
I didn't make an inference to you in any insulting way. I said the article felt warm and fuzzy. So I didn't accuse you of being warm and fuzzy.
I was clarifying what you mentioned. All right, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, and then the other issue, again, it's an echo of what the stepmother of the young kid that got hit on his bicycle. And I'll tell you, we as a community can do better with how our kids come and go to school. And I'll tell you what, with this kid, and I think he was hit on his bicycle in the crosswalk with the crossing guard there, the story gets a little fuzzy, the chief probably knows it exactly, but nevertheless, we should be very, very proactive at this point going forward. If it takes us to position a squad car out there during those morning, hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever it is, when the kids are moving. And you know what? I'm the last person that wants to get a citation, especially in a school zone, but let the tickets fly. And something has to be done, because fortunately, this kid was not hurt, but we could be facing a discussion in the future where somebody does get hurt. And I don't think we don't want to go there. We don't want to go there for multiple reasons. And I think Jay, if you can work with the folks, and you guys are going to have the meeting or whatever you do, if we can pull something together and again, get out in front of this and say, you know what, folks, if you come ripping through this particular area on a bright, shiny morning to drop your kid off and you're doing 45 or 60 in a whatever zone, you should expect a ticket. We have to get that message out there because we cannot afford as a community. And I'm not using afford as a financial term. We can't afford to have people that are struck in crosswalks. No, that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Might be good to get your speed limit, your speed is such and such, the trailer that we've got, if we still have it.
Okay.
And set it out there at that point. Because at some of the other locations, we do have officers.
Yes, they kind of rotate, don't they, Chief? In different spots? Yes.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Okay.
Chief, can you provide the ultimate clarification for this and let us know exactly what happened?
That would be
Because what has been discussed here is simply not facts.
Right.
Yeah, there's some confusion here. Well, first of all, I have one school resource officer that's assigned to all the campuses here in the school district. That school resource officer is out there every day doing traffic control, traffic management around those school zones. In addition to that, my other patrol officers that are not assigned to the schools, when they have time, they're out there doing traffic management, traffic control around the schools, in addition to several police volunteers that are in those areas. Very difficult, obviously, for us to be everywhere at one time. As far as this traffic collision is concerned, speed was not a factor. It was not the fault of the driver. It was determined that the cyclist was at fault. The cyclist actually came into the crosswalk as the motorist was already passing through the intersection, and the cyclist struck the side of the vehicle. And there was some confusion. The crossing guard was present. There was confusion between the crossing guard walking out into the street, the cyclist thinking he was stopping traffic when the motorist had already passed by. It was the perfect storm.
Thank you.
I've been here 5.5 years. This is the first incident that we've had involving a student, other than the one we had at the high school that occurred in the parking lot. So I think our guys have done a pretty amazing job, actually, of managing traffic around the school zones. It happens, it's twice a day at every school in the country. So we do the best that we can, and I try and have my folks out there as often as I can.
Thank you. Did you have any more, Jamie?
No, Madam Mayor, thank you.
Amen, I could say to that. I substituted in our school district, and the police officers are very visible, and they're in and out all day. So sometimes you know when they're going to be there because they have certain fulfillments, and other times they're in and out. So children beware, the police are around. So anyway, and we appreciate all that they do. And sometimes they are unappreciated, but they are. So anyway, thank you very much. That's all.
Thank you. All right. And I don't have any comments. And we're finished, and we'll adjourn. Thank you very much.